All right, so I think it's time to finally stop messing around and get out and do some real work in the garage. It's time to get this transmission out. So I meant to stop by the store today to get some paint and stuff to finish cleaning this one up and get it painted, but we'll see, because I still want to get the one that's in here now rebuilt. The reason I'm swapping this out is because it's a bad transmission. There's no reverse, and I think there's only one forward gear in here. So I want to get it out and eventually get it rebuilt. So I'm gonna throw the backup one in. Hopefully that's a good one. I borrowed that from a buddy. He said he pulled it from a van, and he believes it's good, but like I said, you never know. But I'm pretty sure he pulled it from something that wasn't too bad. I know he knows what he's looking for. So I was planning on swapping them out for the Classic, but I ran into two issues. Well, it's probably more than that, but the major two. So let's see, it's gonna be tough to see, but there's two bolts on the back of the transmission, or the bell housing, that up here I could get access to them. It's just when I went to go put leverage on them, I didn't want to stress the fuel lines too much, so I was like, let me not mess something else up at the time, so I just left them in there. And then there's another bolt on the bell housing, but it's too close to the firewall, so even if I back that bolt up, it's not enough room to get it out, keep the motor level, lift the car back up, drop the transmission. The only thing I'm concerned about once it is dropped is getting it out from under the car. The jacks I have, I don't think any of them are going to be tall enough. So I have the Harbor Freight one, well, actually two Pittsburgh ones, and then the ramps. But with the transmission and the transmission jack, I don't think I have enough height to get the front of the car, or to get it out the side, so I might have to get creative. Might have to borrow my neighbor's lift. He does a lot of off-road and stuff, so his jacks go a little bit higher, but I'm pretty sure we'll be able to figure it out. And once it's out, I'll put the replacement transmission in, and hopefully this one's good. Like I said, it probably won't happen tonight. I might just start draining stuff and disconnecting stuff tonight. But it is from similar years. I know the 4L80Es, they have two different ones. I think the earlier ones have the feed and return both up here, and then the later ones have the feed and return spaced out. In mine, I'll show you once I get it off, but I'm using banjo fittings here and here, which gives you a little bit more clearance. You don't have to really do anything to the transmission tunnel to get them to clear, where normal like AN fitting would come out a lot farther. The banjo bolts pretty much tuck up against the transmission, so you're able to have a little bit more clearance. And then I think this one's longer than this one, so you got to keep that in mind when you're doing your lines. Of course, I'll remove, I think, this right here and this get removed, and then the Terminator X plugs into these two in here. So I'll go over as much as I can once I get to it. It does have the torque converter that came with it, so we'll get there. I know I've been talking way too long. I know I'm gonna start showing more work again. I know I've had a few comments on that, like, man, we're gonna start showing some work. So I'll put you guys on time lapse, start taking all this stuff off, jack the car up, drain everything, disconnect the drive shaft, and we'll get going. So I guess I was wrong about getting this bolt out. So apparently I didn't tighten it up back, or I didn't tighten it back up. So I was just able to remove it with my finger. And I've been looking for this ratchet for a while now, and it's just been sitting here somewhat stuck. So I'm about to fish that out probably from the top. But yeah, I've been looking for that ratchet for a while. So yeah, this was the bolt I was concerned about, which I was able to get out. So now, before I do too much work, I'm gonna have to see. I did get another like a long skinny ratchet, so I might be able to get to those bolts from the top. I'm gonna double check, but we'll see. Still need to figure out how I want to. What's gonna take to get that out? But obviously, once the transmission comes out, that's coming out with it. So it'll be this bolt here, 2 up on the motor, and then 2 on this side. So those are the bell housing bolts. And then I'll take this cover off. That'll give me access to the torque converter. Get the torque converter bolts off. Take the starter out. And then disconnect the shifter linkage and all the wires for the Terminator X. And I'll come back here, take out those with the drive shaft. This will just slip out, and I'd want to plug this up with something. I'll probably just throw some rags in there to stop it from leaking as much, because I know there's still some fluid in there. What came out, not that much, probably about 6 quarts. So I know I'll put at least 12 or 13 in here. So there's still stuff inside the transmission, inside the transmission there's still fluid, and then inside the torque converter there's still fluid. So I'm gonna disconnect all that and put that somewhere, so I don't go losing that. It's a good place for it right there. Yeah, so I got this one. So I think this might work. It might be skinny enough to put a socket on there, drop that in there, and put a little bit more leverage on with that. So I mentioned on my camera, while this was still on the time lapse, I took the phone out, recorded a little piece. So I just took out the intake, disconnected the downpipe. I might, now I'm thinking about it, I might not have to take out as much stuff or move the motor up at all if I get these 2 bolts up top. So what I'm gonna do now is make sure I can get those 2. Well, let's see, it's drained. Probably want to take out the drive shaft, so I'll take out the drive shaft, and I'm gonna see if I get a socket on there and get those bolts out, because if I can loosen those up, I don't have to do anything with moving the motor up at all. So I would just have to climb back up under it, take all the torque converter bolts out, take the starter off, disconnect the wires, and then figure out some way to, I have the transmission jack, so I'll lower the transmission, but I'd still have to figure out a way to get it out from under the car, because I don't think that's enough height to get it out with it on the transmission jack. So that's the big part right there. Let's see, transmission jack is all the way lowered. That's about 8 inches. Then the transmission itself, we're talking another, let's see, about 19, so about 27 inches total. Obviously coming off the side, but coming out front, let's see, this would have to go up another pretty much 8 inches. So we'll see what we could do. Might have to get creative and just lower it on the transmission jack, wiggle it off the transmission jack, and might have to throw it on like the creeper and roll it out or something like that. So we'll see, but I think I should be able to do it. So let me double check with these bolts back here, then I'll disconnect the drive shaft and get back to it. So the drive shaft, I'm not going to throw it back on the time lapse. I might throw it back on when I'm up here, and then if these work, I'll throw it on the time lapse again when I'm disconnecting everything, and we'll go from there. Yeah, so I'll cut you guys back on here in a little bit. All right, so that's been dirty. There, it's better. Yeah, that's better. That's better. So what I'm thinking now is just with a clear head. At the time when I was doing it, I was pretty upset. So I think I'm only seeing one bolt back here now. I think. So I think I'm just running 5 on the bell housing, because I know one of them's usually drilled or not drilled, but you don't use it. I think it's drilled on the bell housing, not the block or something like that. So it might just be the 2 on each side, so that's 4, and then the 1 up top. So with this little swivel extension, I was able to get enough to break it loose. So next, I just have to take the ratcheting wrench and get it on there since it's broke loose, and just loosen up with that, or keep going like quarter turns with this. So yeah, it might be fairly quicker than I thought. It's still going to take a while to get the torque converter bolts out, but with that being broke loose, and I think it's only 5 of them. I know some people sometimes you could get a whole bunch of different extensions and pretty much come up the back of the transmission and get a socket on there, which I did pick up some of the wobble extensions. I know my neighbor has a bunch of them, but I had to pick up my own set, so did get some of those in case I wanted to take that route, but we'll see. I think this is going to work, which I'm pretty excited for. So just need to stop talking, get back up under here, disconnect the drive shaft, the starter. Yeah, the battery's unplugged. The starter and the flex plate, or the torque converter bolts, and the cross member. Get the transmission jack up under here and brace the engine. So I'll probably put a block of wood and the other jack up under the oil pan to keep that one level, and we'll go from there. So if I can get it dropped, and then I'll probably just have to wait until maybe my neighbor, catch him one of these mornings before he goes to work, and try to jack the car up even more, or I don't know. We'll have to get it out of here somehow, so we'll see. But yeah, that's my biggest concern now. I feel like I'm going to be able to drop it, and just getting out of the car is going to be the difficult part. That's why it'd be nice if I had the lift, but not there yet. Not there. Soon, but not yet. But if I did have the lift, the car would obviously be up on it right now. And once the transmission was on the transmission jack, lift the car up and go from there. But yeah, throw you guys back on the time lapse, climb up under the car, do some stuff, and we'll see how far we can get. Alright, so show you where your PPE. I was up under there, thought I was fine. Had a little bit of, I think it was transmission fluid, dropped in the eye. Went in, washed it out, grabbed some glasses. So torque converter bolts are out. Everything's unplugged, shifter cables disconnected, drive shafts out. I taped the U-joint so none of those needle bearings will fall out. Next thing to do will be get the transmission jack up under here, brace the motor, so get like a 2x4, put the jack up under it, and knock out these, I guess, 4 bolts I have left. One is already out. I'll start with this top one, make sure I get that out, and the 3 left on the side should be a piece of cake. Well, no, I'd have to, once I brace the transmission, the motor, I'll take out the cross member, or loosen that up and slide that back, so I'm able to drop the transmission once all the bolts are out. But yeah, pretty much everything I said. Start with all that. Like I said, I'm gonna start with this bolt up here, make sure I get that out first, and the other one should be nice and easy. But let me brace everything and see if we get the transmission at least dropped today. I guess there are 2 lines still hooked up, so the transmission cooler lines there are still hooked up to the transmission, which that should be pretty easy. Like I said, just banjo bolts, and I left enough slack in there in those lines, so I am able to drop it. But yeah, let me stop talking and grab something to drink, and then come back out here and drop it. Alright, so I think this is where I'm going to call it a night. It's getting late, as you guys can see, and I think in order to do what I need to do next to get the motor separated from the transmission, it's sitting on those, there's 2 guide pins, one on each side, so pretty much have to try to pry them apart, and the motor's braced and the transmission's braced. So unless I hear a loud bang in the middle of the night, we're good. But all the bolts are out. Everything else is disconnected except the 2 transmission cooler lines. But yeah, it's just those 2 guide pins just sitting on. It's ready to be dropped, but I just got to figure out how to separate the 2. And once I do that, the next step will be to lift the car up more and get the transmission out. So we'll see how we're going to do that. But like I said, it's getting late. I don't want to piss off the neighbors too much. Try to be somewhat respectful, you know, try not to be too loud. Still have to work in the morning, so I'm gonna call it a night. Go get cleaned up a little bit and come out tomorrow and try to get these 2 separated. All right, so coming out, and transmission's coming out today. So mentioned last night when I was working on it, thought I got all the bolts out of the bell housing. From what I could see, there was one hidden, and I went back to just watching the video of me putting it in. So where was it? Yeah, I did go back in and notice there was one more sitting right in the center of the block, or right in the center. So I was pretty much hidden by the oil pressure sensor, but I only noticed it because I went back, watched the video. So there were 6 bolts. It's just the 7th one is drilled out, I believe, on the transmission, but not on the block. So that's what I was thinking. So what I'm gonna do. So I can actually see it now. Or no, that's it. So since everything's loose under there, I could probably tilt the transmission up a little bit. That's gonna give me a little bit more access, which is it's gonna tilt the engine up a little bit, give me a little bit more access in between the firewall and the block. I'll do the same thing when I got the other one off, and hopefully after that the transmission will come out. So that's what I'm gonna do today. It's already hot, so I thought about waiting a little bit to come out when it's a little bit colder, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and try to knock it out right now. But yeah, like I said, that's why I covered everything on the, well, about 95% of the stuff on the car. I covered it, so I can go back and watch videos and see certain things. But yeah, car's come a long way. Yeah, if you haven't went back to see where the car started from, go check out that video. Everything's in a playlist, so it's all documented. You can see every step along the way. Like I said, it was just a rolling chassis. Let me actually show you guys how bad the car was. Like I said, everything's in a playlist, so you can see. Have stuff from G-Bodies in Junkyard, Colorado G-Bodies, the Elko, the Monte, rewiring the Elko, the trunk enclosure, the exhaust, all the motor stuff for the Elko. When I had the 88 T-top over here, the whole wiring harness, or the wiring videos for the Monte, and a little bit of 3-gun stuff. But show you guys just how bad the Monte was when I got it. Yeah, watch the ads. No, they've been getting long though lately. Let me show you guys. It's where the Monte started. Yeah, that's where it started. You guys see what it is now. But that's enough of that. Let me get started and get this transmission out. I'm still concerned about how I'm going to get it out from under the car, but one step at a time, right? Alright, so didn't take as long as I thought, but I did not have the transmission on the transmission jack like I should have. Ended up slipping off, which kind of helped. I didn't let it fall, but I just slid it off and onto the creeper, and then from the creeper to the ground because it's just awkward. But it is out. I'll show you guys that here in a second. But I know a lot of people, at least me, I'm like, when I'm working on something, tools are all over the place. But since I got it out, it did spend a little bit of time putting everything back together. So, Colt Bolt, hook me up some tools. Or anybody, Harbor Freight, Snap-on, but Harbor Freight or Cobalt, Pittsburgh, I'll take them all. But yeah, organized a little bit, cleaned up the garage a little bit, not spotless, but got a lot of the clutter out of the way. But yeah, the transmission is out. Did make a little bit of a mess. The torque converter, surprisingly, I don't know if that wasn't on all the way, but after I took it out, it was up a notch or two. I think it's like 3 notches when you twist it on there or something, but it was out, it was leaking, so I don't know if that could have been the problem. but I will have this one. I will take this one and get looked at. Maybe not right away, but probably next month. I'll take it to go get torn down, inspected, see what it's looking like, and then if it needs to be rebuilt or something just needs to be refreshed on it, I'll give the go ahead for that. But for not today, but in the meantime, I will throw this one in and see how this one does. I want to clean it up first, so all the electronics and everything, all the grime. I don't think I have any like grease remover on hand, but I might pick up some tomorrow on the way home. Get this all cleaned up. I'm debating if I want to paint it or not, because this one's mine. This is a buddy's. He said I could use it. He just wants one of them back as a core eventually. So I don't think he'll mind if I do paint it. Either the cast coat aluminum or red. I'm leaning more towards red just to play with all the colors on it, or the accent colors on the car. Obviously the red, just a hint of red here and there. So I know you're not going to see much of it, but I would like to clean it up and paint it, so I'd have to get more paint, grease remover and all that. Just finish cleaning it up and paint it eventually, so that might be tomorrow on the way home. They're both 480Es in the same, I think 97 and up. Have them spaced out instead of both of them right here, or at least the transmission lines. So they are the same on as far as that. And then, like I mentioned, these are the banjo bolts. So these are kind of like the banjo bolts on the brake line, or just banjo bolts in general. I probably should have kept that in there. But it does have AN fittings. And the reason you want to run these is for clearance. So I'll show you guys here in a second. So the banjo bolt's pretty much going to go straight out of here and pretty much tuck the transmission a lot easier, where a normal AN fitting, of course this is like an AN10, so it's going to be a little bit bigger, but AN90 would stick out pretty far. So this helps just eliminate that, keeps them tucked. So I have to transfer those over to here after I clean it up. And stupid fly's messing with me, so the camera's all shaky. It's that fly. But yeah, all these get removed. And the Terminator X just plugs in here, here, and here. So all this right here gets taken off. Obviously won't need this bracket, and these old lines will be removed also. I do have the plug for it in here. I took the one out of, when I got this one it had the plug in it, so I put it in there, even though I don't think any fluid is in this one. I just put it there in case, because it did leak out from here. Made a little bit of a mess, but got most of that cleaned up for now. And that block just supporting the engine so it's not leaning back or anything. And while this is pushed forward just slightly, there's one of the cooling lines back there I need to tighten up, because that's what's leaking mostly. Yeah, so I'll fix that. But yeah, both of them, hoping this one's in good condition. So, well, I'll probably swap them out again. So if I do have this one rebuilt, I'll probably have it built. Nothing crazy, but this is, I am planning on, my goal's 500 to the wheels, so like 600 on the motor. But I know the turbo is rated for 900, which I don't think with the 4.8 I'll turn it up that much. Maybe if I do a 6.0 eventually, who knows? But I think the 6.0 is leaning more towards the PT. But that'll be next year's build. But yeah, probably have it built a little bit, at least strengthen it up a little bit. I know the 480Es, they're using heavy duty trucks mostly, so a lighter vehicle, making a little bit more power than stock, versus like a work truck. It's going to handle a little bit better, but who knows? I know eventually once everything's running right, I'll probably beat on it a little bit, but we'll see. So I probably have to swap it out a couple times. Like I said, this one was in. I put this one in, get this one built, and then once I get this one back, I probably want this one back in the car. So that's where it'll go. Or I might just tug it off to the side, hit up my buddy, try to find another core for him or something, and just have this one for backup, see what the stock one does, and go from there. Now I'll keep this one manual. But yeah, everything looks the same. I'm not sure though. This one has a 5 on it. This one has a 3 stamped on it, but it's probably just casting numbers. Everything else looks pretty good. This one does have that rubber boot on this side. I know I changed out the sill back here, so that's just a little different. It has this tab. It looks like mine's broken off, but no big deal. No big deal at all. But yeah, like I said, I was gonna have this as 2 separate videos, but I'll just make a little bit longer video. I know some people like the longer videos, some people don't. So it is what it is. But yeah, it took a little bit longer than I thought. Like I said, I forgot this bolt, so I think I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Where this one, like I said, is drilled on the bell housing, but I don't think it's drilled out on the block itself. So just those 6. When I put it back in, I'll throw these 4 in, and then, well, these 4 will be easy, and then I'll have to do the same thing I did to get these 2 out, get them back in. So I think I have enough room. I could start them by hand, and then to snug them up, I'll get that wrench in there. Like I said, it's had a flexible head on it, so it worked out. I know some people use extensions and go up the back of the transmission, like the wobble extensions and stuff, but I just did it that way. There's, like I said, if the wires and everything weren't tucked back there, it'd have been a little bit easier, but they are. Did have to keep in mind I didn't want to rub on this fuel line that much, even though it is still braided, and PTFE lines, I didn't want to damage that one at all. So yeah, yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm just gonna leave them both here for the day. I guess I'm not taking the bike to work tomorrow, so yeah, did have a new torque converter, so I'm not sure if these numbers mean anything, or 24219, so they're the same, at least the part number, just that 330 and the 326. Not sure if that's different or anything, but I'm gonna run the one that came with it, and all that will be sent out eventually. But yeah, making some progress on it. We're making some progress. But who knows? There's a lot of stuff I need to do to pretty much all the cars. Like I said, Monte, mostly it's just transmission. Elko, I want to give it a full refresh. PT is going to be a full build, chassis, rear wheel conversion swap, LS. So that's going to be a big project. Camaro needs a windshield and a little bit of a tune-up. The Blazer, I'm not sure. And the truck, it's just a truck. So that's about it. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, hit me up in the comments or hit me up on Instagram. If I know the answer, I'll get back to you. If not, I'll figure it out.